Hello guys, Phantom here, and today we're going to talk about Worlds 2020, the meta, and we're going to talk a bit about plans, and then we're going to go into a big conversation about drafting the champions I expect to see. So I'm going to touch a bit on plans, but I'm not going to go too deep here, and the reason I'm not going to go too deep is largely because I didn't get the chance to see all the games, not going to lie. I saw Japanese finals, I saw Rainbow Seven, I saw Legacy Esports. I saw INTC. I didn't get much time to see Turkey. I saw Liquid. Didn't get to see Lions. I saw LGD, and to be honest, I don't even know who this is. I actually generally don't even know who this is. Okay, so they're from Hong Kong, Taiwan. Who's on their roster? Anyone I can recognize? Honestly, the only guy I even recognize is River. So I really can't say anything about PSG Talon. But looking at the pools, if I had to make any rough predictions, from what I saw out of Legacy, I think they're really, really bad. Like, genuinely really, really bad. So, don't see them doing well at all in this group. I saw INTC. They generally just outright looked terrible. It really just looked like Envy was picking up a backpack and putting his entire team in it. If it really felt like if Envy had one single bad game when I was watching INTC, then they would have not made it at all. Mad Lions, I know, used to be a decent organization. I know they got fourth place this split. Can't say too much crazy stuff, but from what I do know, they're all right. Supermassive Esports, I actually saw glimpses of what they did, and my thoughts on Supermassive is I'm genuinely not impressed because they did have a few games taken off them, and the region itself looked very sloppy. And I don't mean it as like a typical statement. I mean it's like when there were some games where a team would win and they would win hard, and it was just like, guys, this is finals. How is it actually this bad? But then you can say that about almost any region. So maybe Supermassive is actually legit. Kind of hard to say, but I would say if you were to pair up Supermassive, Legacy, and INTC, I think Supermassive is the best out of all of them. And then we have Liquid. A lot of people want to discredit Liquid, but I think Liquid actually did give TSM a good fight. I thought they gave TSM a better fight than FlyQuest did. And because of that, I actually think Liquid is actually a decent team in this group. Um, what I will say though is from the way NA has been playing this entire year, and how the region has looked this entire year, and how solo queue has been this entire year, this is a year where if Liquid slacks off at all, they could easily come out of this group in third place. And I don't mean that as a discredit towards the players. In fact, I think if all these players practice hard, if they take play-ins seriously, they should 100% get out. But if they're sloppy, I mean, not if they're sloppy, if they were lazy during their preparations, which they shouldn't be because it's a proper NA organization, one of the biggest, then it could be scary. But Liquid is hyping it up. They're posting videos on their YouTube channel. They got Olive back to be like their face. So if Liquid is putting this much hype for themselves in play-ins, then I'm pretty sure they're making their players work just as hard. So I think Liquid should 100% get out of this group. So overall, I have Liquid and Mad Lions for top two. Hard to say for sure who will get first place. Everybody else below them. I will say though, I think Team Liquid and Mad Lions kind of got off lucky with the fact that I think they had debatably the weakest of the wildcard regions placed in their group. I think PSG Talon is better than Legacy and Ints. I think V3 is better than Legacy and Ints. So I think Team Liquid and Mad Lions generally got off lucky that they don't have to face China and that they don't have V3 in their group or Unicorns of Love. So that being said, now we move on to Group B. LGD, this is just there really is no argument. You can argue that LGD is the best team in this entire 8 core. So LGD first place. Rainbow 7, I'm just gonna put them in dead last. They looked awful. V3, I don't know what happened in Japan. I actually watched other games in Japan and they looked alright. And then finals just looked horrible. Like finals just actually looked really bad. I don't know if they were nervous or what, but Japan in finals, both teams did not look strong at all. Unicorns of Love. I will admit to being guilty. I did not have any time to watch Unicorns of Love, but I heard good things, so I'm gonna place them like. Honestly, I can't even place them if I can't say how good they even are. But what I will say is I've only heard bad things from Talon, and so maybe Unicorns of Love will be second place in this group because I've only heard bad things about Talon. So if you guys are gambling, I would take this with a grain of salt. But Mad Lions Liquid for top 2. If I would have to choose a third place, if you guys are gambling or what have you, Supermassive in third, then Legacy in fourth right here, and then I would actually put INTC in last. LGD first, Unicorns of Love second, Talon third, V3 fourth, but they could get third, then Rainbow 7 fifth. And I said 8 earlier, but I should have said 10. I can't do math, I'm sorry. So that's just my rough thoughts on this. Not going to go too deep in detail because, like I said, I'm not the most informed when it comes to all these games. I only got to see about half of them play. So moving on to the next subject. So let's talk about the patch notes of what the World's patch was. Because let's rewind a bit, because there might be some people who don't even remember this patch. So Ahri got a bit of changes. Does this make Ahri great? No. Does it make her decent? She doesn't really change anything. These changes were very blah. They didn't really do much. Ahri is still that safe, mediocre pick. Although I will say Envy did pull it out in INTC game, and it was actually good. He played it good. And what I will compliment Ahri is she's a general safe pick that doesn't have too many hard punishments. Ashe, she got her attack damage reduced, but it really makes no difference. Galio, so Ashe is still going to be one of the best picks coming into Worlds for ADC. Galio got a little bit of a love tap, but for teams that liked Galio, this isn't really going to do much of anything. Jarvan, he got a base damage buff from the looks of it. Does this bring Jarvan back into the meta? And honestly, not really, because these AP scaling junglers are just way too oppressive. Maybe a team can bring it out in play-ins or like early groups as like a cheesy snowball the early game type strat, or might just be like really aggressive. Like Jarvan's not awful, it's just everybody else is better. Kale, like these changes are just like a hot bag of mixed feelings. You see the occasional team trying to bring her out in top lane, mostly against tanks like Ornn, because that's like a safe, no fighting lane. But then the problem is that she's a really easy champion to gank in camp. And that being said, like her early game is so bad that her late game doesn't feel like a big enough reward for what you had to suffer. It's like you have to suffer so hard on Kale in the early game that if you have to suffer that hard, you better have like Kassadin Kog'Maw level scaling, and she honestly doesn't right now. Kog'Maw, wait, is this a nerf? Oh yeah, they're nerfing him because of AP mid Kog'Maw. That felt really weird. And the reason why it feels weird is because while some teams are trying out AP Kog'Maw in the mid lane, it wasn't like he was the most oppressive thing in the world. It's not like you were seeing him 100% in all games, pick or ban. So this nerf felt very weird and random. I don't know, maybe it was causing more problems in solo queue than he was in pro play, because this just felt weird. It was like, because I checked the stats, like he wasn't like having like gross, disgusting win rates and pick rates. So this was weird. So they gave Miss Fortune a little bit of a love tap. Do I think this is gonna bring her back in? Honestly, I feel like you could squeeze Miss Fortune in here and there, but I don't think she's like the most. I don't think she's greatness. Rumble, they gave him a little bit of a buff. Honestly, Rumble's biggest problem is that he's just kind of hard to play, and there's very few people on the world's level caliber that can play him. Hootie comes to mind. Some Korean top laners. Honestly, Rumble has just always been like you really only see this champion played at the highest level coming out of Korean top laners, and he's really high skill cap. Takes a lot of practice to play, so. even in metas is good. It just comes down to like why play Rumble when you can play somebody who's just as good and easier. Set. Okay, so let's see. Was this a buff or a nerf? I don't remember this. Right path bonus damage HB 0.5. 0.5 passive right punch to scale with bonus attack damage, key damage ratios, damage, Q knuckle dam, bonus damage 10 to 10. Not gonna lie, I have no idea how to read this, but I can say that from the scrims I've been doing personally for fun is that Set still feels like a fine jungler. Top lane you can do it here and there, but not so much. Honestly, top lane Set's been hurt the most, but you can still squeeze in support and jungle Set here and there. And sometimes you'll see mid Set as like a counter to some random stuff. He's decent into Kiana. He's decent into Yone, but Yone's disabled for this Worlds patch. Some random stuff comes to mind. Not going into too much detail here, but you usually Set here and there. I'll talk more about him when it comes time to talk about champions. Shen. So they're nerfing his shield a little bit, but he's still gonna be one of the best top laners in the game. Shyvana, they just gave her all around buffs. Honestly, Shyvana's pro play ready in my opinion, but no one really has to practice in her, so I don't think we're really gonna see her at Worlds. Twitch just doesn't matter at all. Xinjiao just doesn't matter at all. Guardian just doesn't matter at all. So that's the Worlds patch for those of you who don't remember it, because we are on the new patch right now. Remember, this is Worlds patch, so we're not going to see Samira, and Yone is disabled. So, getting off of that subject right now, let's talk about tonight. Predictions, Mad Lions versus INTZ. My vote will go to Mad Lions, hands down. That should be one-sided. PSG versus Rainbow 7. Rainbow 7 just looks outright awful, so PSG any day. Legacy Esports versus INTZ. This is where it could be a bit of 50-50 into guesses, but I'm gonna say Legacy Esports because I was not happy with INTZ at all when it came to watching their finals. LGD versus Talon. LGD just not it's like if you're putting your money on Talon this game, like, sir, we need to be questioning your money spending. Team Liquid versus Mad Lions. Now, this is the real question. This one's actually a really hard one to say. Like, out of all of these, like, these are all kind of straightforward. This is, like, the only real hard one because I don't think we didn't get to see it at all this year. So, from what I saw, because I didn't even get to see much Mad Lions gameplay in time because I was busy with other things. So I'm not gonna give any advice on who to bet for on this one. Yeah, I'm just not qualified to give advice on this one. Okay, so then let's go talking about World's drafting meta. So I kind of started this off screen with some friends, and basically the purpose of this is based off the playstyle of pro players, and so based on the profile of pro players and what we saw through the entire regions and the patches, this is a tier list of drafting of what order you should pick champions in, like where your priorities should be. So like this is basically a tier list on like how early can you pick a champion without screwing over your draft. And so I'll talk about the ones I've already done. In permabans, if you find out that anybody on the enemy team knows how to play a perfect Heimerdinger, like a damn good Heimerdinger, you should just outright get rid of it. This champion doesn't lose much of any lanes outside of like his top lane matchups. And then at the same time, it's just he's a really safe neutralizer where when he's played to perfection, it's just really hard to punish this champion. And then his scaling is just in general really good. And so if anyone in Worlds knows how to play this champion, and you find out, just ban it, get rid of it. You don't have any practice against it, just don't let it go through. Then Ashe, Caitlyn, Ezreal, these are all very standard safe blue side picks. We're kind of in a meta right now where first picking ADC is seen as really valuable because support matchups matter way more than ADC matchups. And so the way the theory goes right now is you can pick just about any, well, not just about any ADC, but you can pick most ADCs first. You can't really punish it too hard, and then everybody else just gets to have more time to have information what they should be picking. And in all honesty, it just feels really good to get Caitlyn or Ashe early, and there's some other picks I'll explain later. But yeah, that's the whole theory behind it. Like, you can pick these characters early, and they're not too punishable. And that's what makes picking ADC early feel so good right now. And so these are really safe B1s. Ezreal you could B1, but what I will say about Ezreal is if Caitlyn or Ashe or other ADCs is opened up, you really should go Delm instead of Ezreal. Um, so in the early section, so this means like you could pick the character early-ish, like after you see like one or two picks, and it's fine. It's safe if you want to do it. I will say there's some people who are first picking Graves. Do I think Graves is B1able? I think he's kinda B1able, but I think that it's just safer to go with the other ADCs, which is why I have him in early. But you might see some teams B1 Graves. And so early, so Azir you could pick him early, can't really punish it too much, and pro teams really like him a lot. Safe, stable pick, not too many bad matchups. That's gonna be a very common theme you have. He's really good if you need a late game scaling on your team. Next up, you have Zoe. One thing I will say that's allowing Zoe to rise so hard in the meta right now is the fact that it feels like there's a lack of like really strong mid laners, like really, really strong, and it just feels like there's a lack of champions that can really keep up against her, especially when you're playing against a properly mastered pro level Zoe. And so that's really what's allowing Zoe to really reign free right now in the meta, especially in NA. It's just the lack of mid lane options. So then next up you have Galio. Galio is pretty cool because he can be flexed between support and mid lane, and there's not many champions you can flex between support and mid lane in the first place, so it's really cool you have that flexibility there. Another thing is, if you do pick him in the mid lane, while he doesn't really hard win any lanes, he doesn't really hard lose any lanes either. And what makes him good both in the mid and the support role is his playstyle is so easy to throw into almost any team comp and it'll work. He's a very just like, oh, I'll just splash it in there type character and it'll be fine. And then next up we have Corki. Corki is just, he has a few bad matchups like Echo, but the stuff that is really good against him, you won't really see too common. Like, he's really weak against, like, long range. He can possibly be punished by, like, really more bursty type picks, like the Echo. Let's see. What to go further into the topic. What makes Corki so good right now, and the reason why you see teams really value him in region and places like EU Masters, is largely because the pick scales so safely with Mana Muni and Triforce, and once he has those core items, and if he's in like a comp that fits him well, he just really does massive amounts of damage and he gets work done. That being said, I will say, I did notice less pro regions picking him during the finals of 10.18, and if I had to guess the reason why you're not seeing much of him is because his lane phase isn't as strong, so it doesn't really be Stomper, and he kind of is easy to camp. He only has his W to get out and nothing else, so that might be some reasons why people are hesitant in picking him too early. So maybe he isn't really that high up, but he's more around here, but I think he's a pretty safe pick. Next up, so pit champions I already chosen. So we have a Kali. Going into a Kali, she definitely needs information. I really don't think you can pick this character too early, because every time I have seen it picked early, even if you flex it between mid and top, you're able to set up the rest of your draft around just making a Kali having a hard time to play with things that punish her for going in. So it's not a B1 pick, it's not a B2 or really a B3. It's really something where you want to see the whole team comp before you pick this character. Because a common theme with these diving type champions who just want to go in and create chaos is if there's too much CC on the enemy team, you can just stun them and murder them. Next up, we have Alistar. Alistar is viable, but you don't really see anyone playing him. So he's more so down here in the tier what I call not played. You can pick him in some specific occasions, like he's good in the Sivir, but not many people pick Sivir in the first place. He's alright if you want a tank, like a really decent tank, but it's just, it really comes down that his lane phase isn't very good unless like you have like your promise to get all the ganks. And so for that reason, we're not seeing much of Alistar. It's just, Nautilus is just kind of a better Alistar right now. Even Galio feels like a better Alistar right now. And then you also have Rakan, who feels like a better Alistar. Like, the problem with Alistar, he's really one-dimensional, and there's a lot of champions that provides what he does, but better. He's not really a champion that's aging well with time. Give me a moment to take a drink. Alright, next up we have Bard. So there's some things that makes Bard a really cool character since his nerf still. It's the fact that level 1, he undebatably has one of the best level 1 trades in the game. If it's a favorable matchup or even a mediocre matchup, this guy just smacks you in the face with meeps, his Qs, his auto attack damage even without the passive is decent. This guy brings in the hurt level 1, which will give you a decent level 1 into level 2 advantage. And then the other thing that's nice about him is that his roams are fairly strong because of his E portals and then the guarantee Solidify is going to provide. Another neat little trick you can do with Bard is that he makes activating Rift Herald in the early game quite tricky if he's roaming because he can cancel out the entire Rift Herald. So that puts the enemy team on their feet a bit. His team fighting feels a bit bleh. It can be really good in certain cases, but there's just most supports just feel like a better team fighter than him, which is why his true role in shining is just rotating his team across the map and looking for picks and causing random things to happen. I feel the meta is evolved to a point where he's no longer like this almighty pick, but I still say he has his decent spots here and there, especially if you're an experienced drafter or bar player who knows what to look for. Next up, we have Braum. So, Braum not in the greatest of spots, but where he shines at is that he's really good in countering comps with stuff like Ornn, just from the fact he's able to negate. So, he's really good in these long-range poke comps, because he can just provide a shield and block out a lot of what they're doing. And another thing that's good about him is he's really good against diver comps with his R and his E. And so he just serves as a really good stop button against team comps that want to create to go. And you saw a bit of him in other regions here and there, and when you did see him, he did his job quite well. Another thing I like about Braum is his level 2 all-in, if you have the right bot lane setup for it, can be quite terrifying with his passive and his stuns. He also synergizes very well into melee comps with a lot of layering CC. And overall, I do like Braum right now. I wouldn't early pick it, but when you can squeeze Braum in into the right occasions, and you're going to hear me say that a lot, he's definitely a character that can do work. Next up, Camille. Now, Camille is a very nasty, nasty creature in the meta right now for the top lane. Top lane meta right now outright doesn't feel good. There's not many top lane characters you can pick and feel outright safe. Almost every single top laner in the game has a counter matchup that they generally do not like, and Camille is no exception. She doesn't really like the Jax, and Renekton can feel a bit 50-50 at times. And even, actually, I just forgot what I was about to say, but Camille in the right drafts is a very nasty creature. She can be unrivaled in a side lane. She scales quite well with her burst combo, so ADCs are terrified of her, especially with the fact if she gets a lead. And then in team fighting, once she has her lifesteal, she is so hard to kill, especially if you provide her an enchanter that can keep her alive, like TSM did with a Zillion. She's just honestly a scary pick right now. And if you could come out with the right draft that allows Camille to be your carry, she will carry. It's not really a pick that I would say right now, out of the champions that are affecting the meta right now, Camille is actually heavily influencing the meta, where if you don't draft correctly and Camille sneaks through, you can actually just lose the game to Camille by herself. Next up is Echo. So Echo can fit into the right situations. I think he's actually okay in the meta right now if you're looking at it a jungle perspective. He doesn't really feel horrible, and I feel he could come back. And I think he's actually a decent mid laner right now too. And you don't see much of him because there's a lack of people that can pilot him, and maybe there's some people who's underestimating his value in the meta right now. So I'm going to take him off information. I'm going to put him just outright to not played section, because while I do think he's definitely an information type pick where once you know what you're facing, he could be a really good character, he's just not really being played. So we're going to put him down here to the not played area. Once again, not played being characters that could be good coming into Worlds, but they're just not really being played. Next up, we have Gangplank. Gameplay is also a pretty heavy meta influencer right now, and not as heavy as Camille in my opinion. I feel the glory he had last year is not holding up, and a large part of that I feel is because with the changes that came to top lane items like Blade of the Ruin King being buffed, he can't really use those too well, and overall it's coming down to where in the side lane he's not feeling too great, and then in laning he's a bit slow. So he can't have a really good lane phase, but then you have the even bigger problem with the fact this is probably one of the hardest top laners in the game to play. And there's not many people anymore who doubt how good gameplay actually is. I think most people are familiar of how good gameplay can be, how good his scaling can be, how good his teamfight presence can be. But the problem is, it's just Soa said it himself a few years ago. The reason why you don't play gameplay that often in the pro stage is because the amount of games required to be good on this champion is literally insane. And moving on from that topic is he also is starting to have some scary matchups. Some people are saying the Camille matchup can be rough, and also the Lucian matchup just feels outright unplayable. If you're facing a good Lucian top laner, the matchup feels unplayable. And there's other range top laners can give him a little bit of a scary time too, like Jace and Tristana. So all in all, like Gameplink is really good, but he's kind of lost his seat as the almighty top laner he was last year. Hard counter. So the hard counter section is where I'm gonna put champions where if you pick it at the right time, they just feel outright unstoppable. Like they just feel like they can completely carry the game by themselves. And so the difference between hard counter information is while these characters do require information to be picked, they are characters that net you more reward than the average counter pick. A well-timed Rengar top can absolutely dominate lane and make team phase an absolute nightmare as he one-shots multiple people over and over and over again. There's not many people that can play it, but because Blippo is going to Worlds this year, I swear to God, if I'm actually wrong about that, I will actually just facepalm myself to death. But if there's anyone who can play Rengar top lane, this is a character that you have to consider if you're facing anyone who knows how to do it. Next up is Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia is one of the best scaling AP mage duelist assassin things in the game. Like this character, with the amount of DPS she does through the poison and the amount of CC control she has of her W and her R, if the team comp is set up for it, then this character gets in, once again, you're going to hear me use the same word slot, a lot of work done. She has amazing scaling. She has amazing DPS contributions. She's basically an ADC in the form of a mage. And it feels amazing to have a strong Cassiopeia mid laner on your team, picked at the right times. Um, Draven. So, Draven is a character that can come into play many times, and he's actually good into a lot of the meta ADCs right now, and he can punish a lot of them. But the big problem is he's debatably the hardest ADC in the game to play, and he takes a lot of practice to get right. But there is some people who can pull it off, and what I will say is when you can pull off a proper Draven lane, there is not a single bot lane combo in the game that feels more oppressive than Draven with somebody that can follow him up with CC. He's really good into Ashe. He's really good into Senna. Ezreal, he will bully. Like, even Caitlyn has to be scared of his level 1, level 2. And this is just a character where if you have a perfect Draven player on your team, he explodes in the early game, and he gets you through that early mid game. Next up, draft focused characters. So, Anivia, I'm going to say is viable, but not played. Uh, this section is basically about characters that are good, but they kind of demand a draft to be about them. Like, when you pick these characters, the show has to be about them, because if it's not, the draft isn't going to look good. There's a lot of characters in, well, not a lot, but there's some characters in this game where once you pick them, the show, the spotlight, it's on them to carry. Ironically, Draven kind of fits this description, but you don't have to form your entire draft around Draven. Evelyn, when you pick Evelyn, you kind of do need to pick with for it concerning Evelyn. One of the things that Evelyn wants is she wants a mid laner that can win. Wants a mid laner that can shove because she wants to be able to farm and have no drama. She wants to be able to safely get that level 6. Another thing you want characters on your team that are very good with CC and following up with her. Because when Evelyn presses the go button, she wants her teammates to go with her. Um, I'm not the most knowledgeable on the Evelyn meta and all her favorite things, but I will say from personal experience that when you're drafting with an Evelyn, it does require a bit of finesse. Um, so here's the sleeper section. Sleeper is gonna be champions that I feel are just outright good, but they're just being completely ignored. And so they're basically not played, but they're characters that could easily sneak into worlds just from the fact they are good, and people are probably aware that he's good. Gragas is an outright good character. He offers a lot of disengage. He really fits the theme. We see it with a lot of comps where on almost every comp you want like at least one character that can reset the fights. And honestly, the big thing the number one complaint I hear about Gragas is people not liking his clear and being afraid of being invaded. But he's decent into Kindred. He honestly doesn't mind the fact that. Sorry, my train of thought is going really lame. A lot of people will say he can get outright invaded, but in all honesty, proper pathing and just playing safe in the early game as a jungler should be able to sneak you by. Because once the team phase starts, this character can do a lot of nice things to help your team out with disengaging the fights, creating the picks, or just creating chaos. Now we go into not played section. As I said, these are characters that are just outright not played, but honestly could be picked at the right times. Brand I think is decent. He's just a really good lane bully, decent scaling. Cho'Gath is played occasionally, but not really played. But that being said, the reason why he's not being played more is because he's not really the most impressive picks. And every time you think you could have a Cho'Gath, you can probably think of better ideas. Fiddlesticks, I think, is actually a decent character right now. I think there's just not a lot of people that can play him to a proper level. Gnar, I think, is okay, but honestly, I'm going to put Gnar more so into not optimal. It's just really hard to fit this character into a draft. He also has a lot of bad lanes, so I'm going to change my mind on that. I already explained to everybody else. Not optimal means character. Not optimal and not viable. The difference between not optimal and not viable isn't much. Not optimal is like characters who are okay, but you can honestly think of better ideas. And then not viable is just like, these aren't good characters. Like, don't pick these characters. I'm not going to go too much in explaining these characters. I'll talk more so about the controversial ones. Um, the most controversial one on this list is probably Elise. The reason why I feel Elise is just outright not optimal is because whenever you can think of an AP jungler, there's just so much that can do it better. You can go Lilia, you can even go AP Shyvana, you can go Evelyn, you can go Gragas. It's just most people are willing to admit at this point that there's better AP junglers than Evelyn, and there's better early game options than Evelyn. And I think this kind of reflects because we don't see much of her at all in pro play lately anyways. If you want early game, just Lee Sin and even Rek'Sai are just outright better options. That being said, you don't really see much Rek'Sai anymore either. Alright, so now we're going to go on to new champions. Kalista. Kalista's really hard to rate because I get a lot of mixed opinions on her when I do scrims, and I get a lot of mixed opinion on her when I ask high elo people. There's some people who say she's a great lane bully and she's a really tough lane to beat, especially when she has the right support. And there's a lot of people who say that champions like Ashe can really punish her and Caitlyn because of the fact she gets outranged. And a lot of people say she's kind of an easy character to gank. My conclusions on this character is I feel if you don't pick ADC early and you wait to see what ADC and what support they chose, she can actually sneak in quite nicely. And when you can sneak her in, she feels like a great pick, and she can have a lot of kill pressure, and she brings a lot to team fighting. It's just more so sneaking her in without her feeling hard countered in lane. And so maybe you even could pick her early. And the biggest thing that you must get with her is a good support matchup and maybe even jungle focus. That being said, she actually does require a lot of practice to play, and she's probably the second hardest ADC in this game to play to the highest levels. Next up, we have Kai'Sa. So you're gonna see the occasional high elo person who likes picking Kai'Sa, and you'll even see them try to do it early. But most of them will admit that there is better picks like the Ashe and the Caitlyn. So I'm putting her more so down into not optimal, where it's not that she's a bad character. There's just better ideas than picking her right now. Next up is in Lucian. So Lucian was basically pick or ban since his buffs, and the big reason that's leading him to be pick or ban right now is that he's flexible into 3 different lanes, while ADC Lucian is feeling the worst out of everybody right now. He is honestly an outright oppressive mid laner that synergizes so well with one of our favorite junglers right now, which is AP Lilia in the jungle. And so because he can have this nice AD mid AP jungle synergy, it makes him a very valuable pick. And then when you use him as a counter pick into top laners like Gameplank, he goes from good to terrifying. And there's also a lot of top laners that outright don't like facing him. A lot of melees don't like facing him, and it just he just outranges you. He can bully you, and if your jungler is not putting attention on ganking the Lucian, then he can really become a problem for your team really quickly. That being said, how good is he actually when he's being banned so often? Kind of hard to say. Is he going to really live up to the hype? I think he will. And I think we'll continue to see him with high pick and ban rates going into Worlds. Next up is Darius. And all honesty, like if you pick Darius into Ornn, like the Ornn should be terrified, and he could be like a really hard counter to like really specific tanks really quickly. The big problem is he's just so easy to shut down, and he's just really not that optimal. I feel like you could sneak him into like a cheesy draft here and there, but then the big question is like, why would you? Fiora can sneak into drafts as like a hard counter to other tanks, and this is where you don't really see Darius pick because every time you can counter a tank with Darius, why not just do Fiora instead? She scales fast. She's a good. I mean, she scales well. She's a good split pusher, and she can be really terrifying for the wrong teams to face. Varus. I actually think you actually can still pick Varus early. I think people overhyped the nerfs. I think when you're picking Lethality Varus into really squishy teams, he can get a lot of damage out really quickly. When you're picking him into full tank teams, you can just swap out into the attack speed on hit build with lethal tempo, and he will actually contribute decently to DPS while providing a good amount of CC with his ultimate. I think he's actually a sleeper right now, and it wouldn't surprise me too much if we saw him come back into Worlds, but it probably won't happen if we're being honest. Ari. So Ari is actually a character you can pick kind of early. We saw INTC do it. Although they only did it around like B4, so maybe it is a bit more of an information pick. But what makes Ari in like this little middle ground zone is, as I said when reviewing the patch notes really quickly with you guys, is she's a pick your mid laner can choose when he has no real idea what he's facing. Oh, that was gross. But moving on, is she's safe. She makes your mid laner feel safe. So if your mid laner is just kind of confused, she's a good safety net pick. But I don't think we're gonna see anyone outside of Envy player. So next up, we have Aurelion Sol. This character is just outright not viable. This character. Okay, so that's why I had this here. This is the crying face tier. That's Aurelion Sol players. Moving on. So Hecarim. So Hecarim got some buffs, and then he got like some, a little bit of nerfs afterwards. But it really, what the buffs did largely is they reminded people of this terrifying creature that Hecarim can be, and you actually can pick him early, especially with like Shen comps. And the big thing that Hecarim players got to look out for is being invaded by characters like Olaf. But if you can look out for that, then the character's fine, and it can actually be pretty terrifying in team fights. He's really controls a lot of space, and brings in a lot of pain very fast. He's really good for comps that just want to go in and go in quickly. Alali, she's just not optimal right now. She's not in as a bad a state in the game as these characters are, but the character just doesn't feel that good. Next up is Irelia. So Irelia is a character I have a lot of mixed thoughts on. When I seen her picked in pro play, and when you pick her at the right times, it actually just feels like you're facing like a Kassadin with no counter mix. Like this character just she has a lot of mobility, she has a lot of damage, and she has a lot of CC. And I feel this character is actually genuinely good if you know who you're facing in advance. Then the big question is, why don't you pick her early? And the big answer in why you don't pick her early is because, like a Kali, she doesn't like facing heavy CC teams. When she goes in, she just wants to be able to dash in freely. She doesn't want people stopping her mid dash because she's not the tankiest of characters, so she can die quickly if she is chain CC'd. So that is why I feel Irelia can be a big winner in your draft, almost to the same levels as a Camille. But the Camille does feel a bit more influencing, largely because the Camille has less bad matchups. It feels like that being said, I think Irelia is a character that can net you even more reward than Camille when picked at the right times. Next up, Ivern. I think Ivern's outright sleeper. I think the character is great. I also think he'd be really good for as a character with a playstyle like TSM, who likes playing these two burly all-in characters with like a bunch of enchanters to keep them alive. I think he could fit the TSM playstyle quite well with the champions they've been choosing in the top lane. Um, but all in all, I just no one plays this character, and we're most likely not going to see this character. I think he's sleeper, but we're not really going to see this character. Like, let's be honest. Who knows how to play this character? And even if they did know, they probably don't want to. Um, Next up is Jonah. I think Jonah can be sneaked into drafts here and there if you know what you're going in ahead of time. Um, but overall, she's just not played. We're most likely not going to see this character at all in Worlds. So you can probably play Jonah here and there. Not many occasions. I don't think she's in a bad a state as these characters are, but it's just a character that people haven't played in a while. So even if she is good, it's just the practice is not there. And then why would you even take the risk when there's so much more reliable stuff? Next up is Jarvan. It's not that Jarvan's a bad character. You can still pick Jarvan in theory. The bigger problem here is just that Jarvan just kind of got outclassed by everybody else. And that's the big reason why we saw Jarvan kicked out of the meta. Um, Jax, hard counter. You can't pick him very often, but he's just outright amazing when you see someone pick Camille and Kled. Like, this character just shuts them down hard. Like, Camille could literally have like 2 to 3 red dragons, be in the late game state, and Jax will still destroy her, even if he's losing. Um, I saw Jace played in a finals somewhere. I think it was NA finals, and honestly wasn't happy with the character. Didn't feel he did much. I feel if you want like a pokey AD top laner, I almost feel like you're better off with Gnar. I don't know. I just like I'm not impressed with this character. I feel like the state he was in 2 to 3 years ago was this almighty top laner where if you were a Korean almighty great Jace player, you could win almost any lane. Like I feel those days are gone. This character needs some buffs. You'll see some people try to bring it out here and there, but it's just like whenever I see him, it's just like this is not the same Jace he was 2 to 3 years ago. All right, Jin. Jin is great. You don't really pick Jin early as like a B1, but you use him as like a counter pick into these picks. Like I feel like a big reason we're seeing a lot of Jin is he's kind of like an easier Draven. He's a character that can turn anything into a kill lane or a gank lane, and these immobile ADCs they have to be careful of the gank pressure and the kill pressure this character can bring. And also, I'd say if you're to make a top 4 ADC list right now, the list would come down to Ashe, Caitlyn, Senna, Jhin. And also, I wonder if he'll actually sneak in a few bans from blue side, where if a blue side wants to first pick Caitlyn, Ashe, or just any ADC, I wonder if they just outright get rid of the Jhin so that the bot lane can have an easy time. So that might actually even happen in Worlds, who knows? Karma. This is just like this character can literally be triple flexed. You don't really see many top laners try it out anymore because they want to have like a strong split pusher or just someone with a little bit of meat on their bones. But when you pick this character, you have no idea where it's going. It can go to so many places, and she's effective in all of them. She's not. She's a bit far away from the glory she had half a year ago or even a year ago, where she was just unbeatable in like every lane. But she's still a decent character that can get work done. Her as a support, she serves as like a really good counter to like tankier characters, and she's you don't really see much Morgana, but she's also pretty good in Morgana too. Um, Honestly, just Karma is all around good, easy, safe character to pick. Like you can even B1 this character. There's better B1s, but if you were to B1 this character, you're not gonna lose draft because you B1 this character. This is a character you can pick early without screwing over your draft. Next up is Karthus. There was a point in time when Karthus was all the way up here, especially if your team had a great Karthus player. Um, Personally, I think Karthus is still up here. I don't think he's a character you can pick early, but when you find out that the enemy team can execute this character amazingly well, I think it's a character you just have to get rid of because stopping him when he's picked at the right moments, this is just a character that, if we're talking about characters that can net you value for their pick when picked correctly, this is probably the character that gives you the highest value when picked at the right times. And because of the fact he is the character that can give you the highest value when picked correctly, I think it's just a character you have to ban if you know the enemy team can pull it off. Because it's just like, why would you run into that risk? Especially if you have no practice against it. Next up is you have Kassadin. Kassadin is something you'll see like EU Master teams complain about and like Grand Master teams in other regions complain about. And a big reason for that is Kassadin's kind of like a melee Karthus where if he's picked at the right times, he feels excruciatingly hard to stop. But that being said, a lot of stars have to align for Kassadin to come out in pro play. But when those stars do align, oh boy, is your team in trouble. Moving on. Katarina. I don't think Katarina's in the worst spot in the world, but honestly, it just doesn't really feel that optimal. And a big reason why she'll never really be pro play viable is largely because she's just such an easy character to just aim your CC at. She's squishy as hell. Kill her immediately after. And that's something that pro players are really well trained in doing. Something the biggest if you were to really differentiate what makes a pro play team compared to like an amateur team, the biggest difference you'll immediately see is these guys are really good at just saying, "Hey, that guy, stun him. Okay, he's stunned. Now let's kill him." They're just really good at doing that. And you'd think that would be like a no-brainer, but when you watch like the Grandmasters scene do their scrims or you watch them do their tournaments, you see it failed over and over and over again. And that's not something that really happens in pro play. Pro players are efficient at just saying, stun this kid, kill this kid. And that's the biggest reason why champions like Katarina and Master Yi aren't really picked that often in pro play, if ever at all. It's really their biggest gatekeeping. Next up is Kale. So we talked about Kale a bit in the draft notes. Um, she is more so like a character you pick after you see everything on the enemy team. If you see like you really don't want to pick her against a jungler that's really good at ganking, and you don't really want to pick her against a bully top laner. Otherwise, she is just gonna hard int in the lane phase. But I am seeing some teams experiment with her against champions like Ornn because it feels like a more safe lane phase where she can just scale. But the thing is, my personal opinion is I place her at not optimal, largely because where you suffer so much in the early game. Like I said during the patch notes, like if you're suffering this much, it should just be a guaranteed win at 30 minutes if you're suffering this much. And it honestly isn't a guaranteed win, largely because her range is so low and it's so easy to get on top of her and kill her. That being said, you will see some pro teams put her up here, but honestly, I think she's just outright here. Honestly, I would even put her down here, but I'll be nice. Next up's Kane. Kane's actually sleeper good. I think Kane is one of the best junglers in the game right now. And I don't think it's just a solo queue thing. I think the biggest thing about Kane is he's a character that requires a lot of practice, and I don't think it's just something that a lot of pro players had time to invest in. That or they probably just don't have a lot of faith in him, and they just mark him off as a solo queue character. But I do think that if any pro player was to see what this character was actually worth, talk to his coach about it, and be allowed to practice it, that this is a very terrifying character to deal with. And I think the biggest thing that defends this character's value is the fact in literally every single region, there's a very high elo Kane one trick that's getting a lot of work done. And I felt like if you're going to put that one trick on a pro team and actually get him to pick Kane in the moment where he wants Kane, that this character would actually be terrifying to deal with. And I feel like the reason why he went so bad in pro play with the time we did see him is that I feel just the practice and the draft just wasn't right for Kane in that specific scenario. And I felt like if he had more time for experimentation, this is a character that could have gone more, that could have had a completely different story in pro play this year. And I kind of feel bad for the Kane fans because like one of the most fun things about watching pro play is just watching your favorite character get picked and watching how good it is to watch a good player on it. So I feel kind of bad for Kane fans because this was their year to watch Kane be played, and it just didn't happen. Um, Next up is Kennen. Honestly, Kennen is like a weird character. Kennen is a character that can, when he's picked at the right times, he can net your team a lot of reward because his ult provides so much hard CC and DPS to the team fight. Not, there's very few things in this game that are more dangerous than a Kennen flank because of the reliability it has. The biggest thing holding this character back is his lane phase feels very mediocre, below average. Um, but I will say is he's one of the few champions where it feels kind of safe to pick him blind on blue side as like a B4, B5, or as like a R4. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Kennen. That being said, I don't think you should really R4 Kennen. You should just give your top owner R5 most of the time. That's just my personal opinion. But yeah, I think Kennen's fine as like an information pick. Kha'Zix, I just think it's just outright not viable. I felt like he was horribly overhyped when he did get the buffs. When you saw him picked, he didn't really get much work done in the first place. It really went into like, you know what recently I said about Katarina, where I said aim to CC, kill the guy who CC'd? That Kha'Zix really fits that description right there, where just like aim your CC on him, squish the bug. Kindred. Kindred is like kind of interesting because Kindred, when picked at the right times, can be a pretty scary character. She scales really well. She's one of the few people that feels alright against Lilia. Also, I like Kindred as a character right now. I genuinely do. Um, his name escapes me, but there's a really good Chinese player that's going to Worlds this year. Really good player on Kindred. We're definitely going to see a bit of Kindred at Worlds. Gonna be surprised if we don't see her, especially when we're coming out of Chinese teams. Cled's okay. Like, honestly, you could pick Cled, but there's just not many people who know how to play Cled. And then the thing is, if you're doing a counter pick for your top laner, like having your top laner know how to play champions like Camille, Gameplay, and Irelia, or even Kennen is just so much more rewarding. So really not that optimal right now. Like it's okay if you want to pick him in solo queue, but that's solo queue. We're talking about pro player right now. Next up is LeBlanc. After you have a little bit of information, what's nice about LeBlanc, she doesn't need too much information to be picked. Um, I definitely feel not enough experimentation came into the LCS and how to fight back against LeBlanc. I really like Galio into her. I think Akali's decent into her if you know what you're doing on Akali. I really like what Sandra into her. Basically a lot of stuff what LS says about LeBlanc I full-heartedly agree with. And you never really saw that experimentation against LeBlanc happen. And I think a big reason you didn't see that experimentation is I think it came out of fear. I think a lot of people didn't want to experiment against LeBlanc because LeBlanc is a character that's so explosive that if the experiment goes wrong, it just feels really bad and then it just kind of tilts your team. And so I think that's the biggest reason why the experimentation didn't happen because experimenting against an Ornn is a lot less punishing than experimenting against LeBlanc. It's just like It the fuck up. If you experiment against Ornn and it goes wrong, your character probably goes like 0-1. If you experiment against LeBlanc and it goes wrong, your character's probably going just 0-free. And I think that's a big thing that held people back from experimenting against LeBlanc. But since those experiments never really happened, at least in public eye, LeBlanc is a reliable, like, kind of early information pick. She's kind of like in the middle when it comes to pro play standards. Boy, we have a lot of champions in this game. Right, please make my life easier and stop making so many champions. Lee Sin. Lee Sin is going. Lee Sin used to be up here, and now he's going down here, and he's kind of going lower and lower. And the big reason why he's going lower and lower is because scaling junglers are just outright better than Lee Sin. And a lot of teams are starting to realize that with the fact they're picking stuff like Nidalee and Lilia. And that's really where we're seeing Lee Sin's fall from grace. Like, people will just finally figure out how to play against this champion, and thank goodness for that. You're still going to see the occasional teams try him out and maybe even do well with him, but teams are finally catching up with how to beat Lee Sin. Thank goodness. It only took them a year. Um, Leona. So Leona is kind of weird. So the lower regions definitely really liked her because she just provides. She's a very reliable go button. But then the higher regions they have a hard time synchroning it because there's not a lot of lanes where she does well in, and Nautilus just feels more reliable than Leona. Um, I think the biggest reason you're not seeing much Leona is just her lane phase just feels kind of bad, and outside of metas where Aftershock is obscenely OP, it's really hard to fit Leona into your comp. Not that it's hard to fit in your comp, but more like it's just hard to succeed with her in lane phase. So she's a character that can work, but you never ever want to blind her. You just don't want to blind this character. Next up we have Lilia, and Lilia is just honestly one of the best characters in the game right now. And while she's not B oneable, she's definitely a character that has to be banned quite often. And honestly, she's just a character that's like, if you don't have anything prepared for the Lilia, you should be banning this character. There's times where you won't ban her because you get information on the enemy team that it can do something even scarier. But honestly, this character is like somewhere in this range where if you see Lilia bans, don't be surprised. Next up, we have Lissandra. Lissandra I'm gonna put in the sleeper category. This champion's great, especially with the new electrocute people, AP electrocute people coming out with. Good character, really good answer to these heavy diver type teams or these heavy assassin teams because she can just CC them, stun lock them, and put them in their place. But we're probably not going to see her in Worlds, unfortunately. I think she's a character that can 100% come back. You pick her around this area, but she's just being completely forsaken and kind of sad, really. Like, LS has been preaching this character for a while, and honestly, she's in the best state she's ever been in a while. Next up is Lulu. This character is also a character you only pick with like hyper scaling type comps. Um, you can pick her here and there, but she's a pretty weak laner, and it's a lane that can definitely be punished, and you're not gonna see it too often, but you will see it sometimes, possibly. Lux, this is a character that's coming back in the meta, and what makes her really nice to be picked early is that she can potentially be flexed into the mid lane. Most of the time you are going to see her as support, but she is a flex pick that's nice automatically for any pro play standard. Her lane phase, both in support and in the right mid lane matchups, can feel very oppressive. And then she's a decent team fighter with the fact she provides so much zoning CC, and her shields aren't nothing to laugh at either. And she's also a character where even if you're building her with all support items, she can bring into damage. So in all, really well-rounded character in the meta right now. She also combos really nicely with Caitlyn, if I might add, and that it's like Caitlyn Lux is one of the new standard bully duo bot lanes you see right now. Malphite, honestly, this character is just not that optimal. You can maybe sneak them in like really rare occasions with like safe top lanes like against Ornn, but it's just like, why didn't you pick Ornn if you wanted to tank for yourself in the first place, then? Alistar I'm matching up in the sleeper category. I think this is a champion that could 100% come back. Decent damage, very safe lane phase. Like, if you're a mid laner, you have to go in blind and you just want something safe. You actually could potentially pick this character. This is a character that could come back anytime now, and maybe we might actually see it, but doubt it. Next up is Maokai. Maokai was weird. Maokai's a weird conversation, bro, because you had coaches who were giving him credibility, and then you kind of saw some people try it out, and it didn't even have bad results. Like it was all right, and then just out of nowhere, he vanished, and then you can put some of that blame on that the fact that the set lane was pretty hard, but it's just like, and what was nice was you could flex him as a support and a jungler too, and he wasn't that bad at those either. But it's just like he just vanished, and I think he's still okay right now. But it's just the character just completely vanished the past few months. Like he was there, and like in a snap of fingers of no nerfs or real nerfs, like he was just gone. Master Yi, honestly, we were doing like a multi-enchanter type funnel type comp. Master Yi could potentially be played, but don't tell anybody that I told you that. So we're just gonna lie and say he's not optimal. Uh, Next up is Miss Fortune. Miss Fortune is honestly okay. You could pick her right now, but there's so many better ADCs, and for the fact that they outclass her so hard, she's just not that optimal. Could pick her here and there, but it's just like better ideas, really. Uh, Mordekaiser. I've seen people dabble with him, but whenever I see people dabble with him, I'm never impressed. His lane phase is kind of mediocre. He has some good lanes, but he doesn't scale that hard anymore since his nerfs they had like 6 months ago. He's a decent mid lane champion that makes the team do like attacks. You could kind of do him in the jungle, but honestly, not that optimal right now. Not that optimal. You can kind of do them, but it's just like every time you can think Mordekaiser is a good idea, you actually have better options. Morgana, you see her sometimes. She's a decent counter pick. You see her sometimes. She's good anti CC. I actually like her more than Tom Kench. A lot of people are using Tom Kench in the role of Morgana. I actually like Morgana more than Tom Kench. I like Fresh more than Tom Kench. I think Tom Kench is kind of overhyped right now. But yeah, I think you see Morgana here and there, and she's right. She's all right. Jesus Christ, Lord help me! There's so many champions. Oh God, is this gonna be a long video? Nami. Nami was actually good when Varus was good, but he never really saw anyone try her out. I think the biggest thing that hurts Nami right now is the fact her favorite ADCs aren't that good. So we're gonna put her down here. That being said, I think she's really good if you pair her with a Cassiopeia. I think she's really good if you pair her with Varus. The problem with Nami is she's kind of like a combo support. Like, there's some supports in this game where they want to play with specific people, and if they don't play with those specific people, they aren't really happy. She's a picky girl. Nautilus is just not viable. No questions here. Don't need to explain it. Please save my breath. Um, Nautilus. Nautilus is alright. You can pick him kind of early. Can't play punish too hard. He has some bad lanes where he doesn't really like facing the mages. But if you picked him early, me stuttering. Sorry. Um, Honestly, I don't like picking Nautilus too early. I prefer picking Nautilus after I know what support I'm going into. But he's kind of like in this middle area where you can pick him early, but it also can be punished by some things. A Deluxe punishes him a bit. Syra can punish him a bit. Most mages can give him a hard time. Honestly, he's down here, but it's kind of like an analytical thing. This is kind of where your analyst and the coaching staff has to do a good job spying on the enemy team. Where if you find out the enemy team just outright does not know how to play Nautilus counters, great champion. But if they do know how to play him, you should really wait before picking him. So he's kind of in like this middle ground here. Next up is Nico. So Nico's interesting. You never see anyone from like the super high regions pick her, but you see a lot of people in like Brazil and Japan really like her. And my thoughts are is that Nico is actually a decent champion right now that can be picked by the high tier regions. I actually think she's a decent support that can accomplish a lot of what Lux accomplishes. And I think she's a decent mid laner that doesn't really have any true hard counters. And I think she actually can be picked kind of early just from the fact that she can be flexed into multiple lanes. But you're going to see the lower teams try her out. But you're not really gonna see the high teams try her out. But I think she's a decent champion. She's kind of over here, but because people are actually playing her, you actually can't. You'll see an okay amount of Nico this game. I wish more people experimented with her. Nidalee. Nidalee is just good. Like good character, good well-rounded character. Um, Not too much complaints about her. Just any champion that gets to build AP in the jungle, good character. I'm gonna kind of speed through this a bit because my breath is dying. Nocturne, not optimal. You can pick them in like occasional comps, but it's just like better characters out there. Main weaknesses come down to he's just really easy to just you beat him by standing together. Nunu is honestly a sleeper. Nunu is a decent mid laner, decent top laner, um, great jungler. Cinderhulk Proto Belt, great build. Just good jungler. Just no one in pro play is just forsaking them. I don't know. Maybe pro players have just made an unwritten rule. If you play Nunu in pro play, you are scum. But yeah, just good character. Good character. Olaf. The Keen of Sinners. The character where you could actually sneak him into like some drafts where like if you're really desperate for picks and your jungler has like a low champion pool. But in all honesty, like in a meta where and in a scenario where players are paid a lot of money to know how to play characters, like he's not the most optimal character. Like he can be in some drafts, but there's just better ideas out there. He doesn't scale. There's even better early game ideas. Just eh. Orianna. Just great for the same reasons that Nico's great. No true hard counters. Like there's really no true hard counters to this, and you can really pick her in almost any team comp. Kind of what I said about like Jarvan earlier. No, not Jarvan. I said about somebody else. Yeah, I said about Galio. Like you can really just slap her into any team comp, and she'll do her job. She's fine. She's really easy to fit into almost any team comp. Ornn. You can kind of pick like Ornn's in like this middle area where you're not gonna like B1, B2 him, but you're gonna probably B3 him or R3 him or R4 or. This is a character that like he's kind of like in his middle ground where he's kind of what you pick when you want weak side top lane, but you want like a good scaling pick. Like he's a good meat shield. He's probably one of the best meat shield top laners in the game, and he's all right. He also pairs really well with scaling comps. Like he is every scaling comp's best friend. Like if a scaling comp gets to have Ornn, then that's actually a comp you have to really respect. Pantheon. I think you're seeing a lot of Pantheon support right now. I'm actually disappointed we're not seeing more Pantheon jungle. I think Pantheon jungle is actually probably a better Lee Sin because his tower dives are so reliable. He's honestly a better Elise, and it's just like I'm really surprised that no one ever even tried Pantheon jungle. But you're not gonna see Pantheon jungle in this tournament. Pantheon top is just kind of gone. Pantheon mid, you'll see the occasional people do it to like just get some good early game synergy with the jungle. But Pantheon support is no laughing matter. Like you gotta respect the Pantheon support, the gank setup, the all-in setup, just well-rounded character. And so you'll see Pantheon pick kind of early-ish, but overall, like I prefer to see a little bit what the enemy team is doing before I pick Pantheon. Poppy. Poppy's kind of low-key sleeper right now. Okay jungler, decent top laner, and she really counters a lot of mobility you see out of top lane right now, and it really surprises me that we don't see more Poppy. I think it's maybe because like people just underestimate this character, but who knows? Maybe we'll see a guy actually bring it out during drafts as like a counter pick to like the high mobility comps. Pike. We saw a lot of Pike out of all the regions. Pike, I don't feel like is a character you can just instantly pick. I feel there's a lot of things that Pike hates coming into a draft. But I feel that you can sneak this character in just for the fact of his invisibility and the fact that this guy is like a support version of Darius when it comes to that dunking on people. it's a character that can bring a lot of damage and a lot of value into your comp. Really like this character. Very exciting to watch too. Oh god, there's still more characters, right? Stop making new champions. Is anybody still watching this? If so, thank you. All right, Kiana. I'm gonna talk a little bit faster. Kiana. Not that good at jungle anymore. If you want an AD mid laner, she's alright. She's really good in team fights. A lot of counter picks, so you don't really see anyone blighting her. Quinn, just no. Don't pick this character. Sucks. Like tears. Like just bad character. Rakan actually fits into a lot of drafts, a lot of CC, can start a lot of fights, multiple modes, multiple playstyles. Great character. Honestly, you kind of want to know who you're facing though before you pick them. Rammus, just no. If the enemy team didn't pick full AD, why would you pick him? Rek'Sai, also no. She's okay if you want to cheese like the early game, but she falls off so hard, and almost any Rek'Sai main will tell you by the mid game they just outright feel like they can't press E anymore. Renekton, Renekton, the king of the Sinner champions, but in all honesty, with the way mid lane meta is and how hard he synergizes with the Blade of the Rune King, and from the fact, as even if there is a lot of counters that can be picked into Renekton, like let's say LS is right, just people aren't even playing those characters. So from the fact that people aren't even punishing it, you can pick it. Purely from the fact that people aren't researching this character to the level that they should be, he is allowed to be up here. So that's what I will say. Like I am in agreement with LS about with a bunch of his thoughts on Renekton, but there comes to the point where no one is doing it, and if no one is doing it, then you can do it. Next up is Riven. This character is actually low-key sleeper right now. She's good into a lot of top lane matchups, but you had to one-shoot this character to play it correctly, so we're most likely not even going to see her played at all in Worlds. Rumble. Okay, the meta right now, not the greatest. And so since, like, you really want to see people pick Rumble when he's like OP, and if he's not OP, people just don't pick this character. I still think mid lane Rumble's alright. I think the character is completely viable, but there's 0% chance we're gonna see this character. Like no hope at all. Rise. You might actually see the occasional Korean play this character. Maybe even China might pull this character out. He's in a mediocre spot in the meta, but when you can pull him out, he actually feels pretty nice. Going into Sejuani, the character is pickable, but it just comes down to that pickable doesn't exactly mean great. She's okay. If you want my personal opinion, I think she's okay. She's not bad, but there's better options. But you could probably pick her out and come out fine. But we're actually gonna compare her down to like just not exactly optimal. Senna, this character is B1able, great character, one of the defining characters in the meta. What she's really good at is the fact she provides her healing and shields of her ultimate, and she gives her team a lot of safety with the stealth. She really supports a strong, diving, heavy fighting playstyle, and she just really encourages it, and she encourages it so well. And she really synergizes with like meta junglers like Lilia and Hecarim too. So interesting character, really cool to see in drafts. Awesome. Set. This character has seen better days. He's received a lot of nerfs, which is why you don't really see him top lane right now. Whenever you see him picked early, it's mostly because you're going to see him played as a safe jungler, because he doesn't have that many too bad matchups, and he's also a really good answer to like teams that just really want to dive, because he has his E, his R, and his W for the counter engagements. Shaco's okay, but just like, you're not really going to see this character. Next up, you have the Shen. Shen is a good character. You could in theory pick him early. Not too many bad matchups. Really safe. Synergizes really well with Hecarim comps. Synergizes really well with comps with Galio. A really good diving character. Also, a lot of cross map potential. Next up is Shyvana. Super category, but no one plays her. So 0% chance of seeing this character at Worlds. But honestly, she's really good. Won't be too surprised if you see like one guy try it, but honestly, we're probably not going to see this character. No words to say. Scion you can pick if you know what you're facing, but you can't blind this character. If you blind this character, you're signing a death wish. Sivir. You'll see some people pull her out if they're really desperate for a pick, because maybe like you'll see people pull her out of desperation, but she's not that optimal right now, and a lot of it comes down to her really bad mana. Skarner, honestly, I just think the character's not that good. I feel the problem with Skarner is that just about everyone in the meta right now makes this character cry because they just kind of put up the hand and say, no, you may not come in and pull me. Sona, we saw the Sona Lux strategy be nerfed a bit, and honestly, Sona is a lot like Nami, where she only likes being picked if you give her her best friends, and when you don't pick her with her best friends, then she's just not a happy girl. And honestly, even when it was good, you were only seeing specific people like TSM do it, and I see a 0% chance of this character coming out in Worlds. I don't see it happening at all. Strock I think is sleeper. I think this character is good, but I really have very low faith we'll see this character in Worlds. The reason I think she's good, I think her lane phase is alright. I think with like sustained type comps that want to do like a lot of brawling and fighting, she shines really well in. I think her scaling is great with her heals. Like I like the character, but I don't think we're gonna see it at Worlds. Swain, you go down to the tier section, boyo. I'm not gonna explain this character. Silas. Whew. Silas is actually he can be a pretty nasty brawler if the enemy team then pick a lot of counters into him. And the fact that this character forces you to consider what ultimates are you choosing on your team is a pretty scary thing to think about in drafts. He's a pretty nasty R3 or R4. Like he really makes the enemy team think when you draft him. That being said, he's not the best of scalers, but in comps where Silas is allowed to shine, like this character is like there's just some characters in this game which are very unforgiving when you don't pick what's good against them, and Silas definitely fits that bill. Syndra is like honestly I don't think Syndra is that optimal right now. I'm not the biggest fan of Syndra since the nerfs, but at the same time I think mid lane meta is kind of in a bad state right now where there's not a lot of kings and queens on the throne right now. It's just mid lane meta is kind of weird right now. It's kind of hard to go into detail in a video that's already been so long, but you can kind of pick this character early. Like she's kind of like this middle ground, but you gotta be safer when picking her. She's no longer this end all be all character. She's been dethroned from that role. Tom Kench, really decent counter pick when you pick him against like. He kind of just makes lanes safe. He helps you survive lane phase, but honestly, I don't like the character too much. But he's alright. Talia, she's alright, but you're just not gonna see her play. It takes a lot of practice. 0% chance this character shows up at Worlds. Talon, not optimal. Honestly, not even viable. He's just been nerfed way too many times. Um, Taric can honestly come out. I'm not sure why we don't see more Taric. You see Taric sometimes, but not often. Um, Timo, you'll always be down here. Fresh, you can actually pick kind of early without too many punishments. And one of the reasons why you see him pick early is he's really good at stopping lanes from all inning with the fact with his E. Um, there's people I think Yamato say he doesn't like Fresh too much, but I think the biggest reason why people don't like Fresh too much is because this is a very skill demanding character, and if you don't have a player that can pull it off, then it's like there's a lot of risk in it. Tristana I think is sleeper right now. I think the character can come back at any time, but especially as like a mid lane ADC flex, top lane flex, but probably not gonna happen. Trundle is like only you kind of just pick this character if the enemy team picked a lot of tanks, decent counter pick, decent early game ganker, but there's honestly better options right now. Not viable. Not viable. Not viable. He doesn't get to go to Worlds. Not optimal. Not optimal. Well, actually, you kind of could do it, but you're just not going to see it. This character has too many glitches. Forgive me, fellas. I got a power Fruitos, so I'm going to go insane. Not that optimal. Just loses way too many lanes. I mean, I guess you can pick her. The enemy team really messes up in drafts. And the rest of these characters are legit. Okay. So, now that we skipped everybody that is just not worth a conversation so I don't lose my voice, next up is Twisted Fate. You can pick this character pretty early. Some teams will even B1 this character. I think he could be kind of punished in B1. Not gonna go into too much detail there because I'm actually just losing my voice at this point. But a lot of people like him. You're gonna see him in Worlds, and you can't early pick this character. I will say though, the biggest thing about TF is it's not about how good the mid laner is at playing TF. It's about how good is the team playing with TF, because it's all about that map control with TF. And it's all about like taking advantage of that mid game opportunity, early mid game opportunity he has the moment he has his ultimate. Urgot, you saw some people experimenting with him as like a counter pick, safe pick, and then he kind of got dropped, and that's also because they kind of realized the flaws of this character. And so I don't really think we're gonna see people play him at Worlds. Veigar is we're gonna put in the hard counter section, where when you perfectly time your Veigar pick against like these high mobile comps without blinks, and he's just allowed to safely scale into the late game. He does a really good job at just controlling the space of the game and just instantly murdering somebody, and just to control you get out of cage. Just great character, and this is really something I heavily abused when in my Baltic Master Series, because almost no one in Baltic knew how to play. Almost none of them knew how to play against this character. And it really wasn't until finals until people actually started making it harder to fit in Veigar. But like when you fit in this character, it's just like the character just feels unstoppable. Vel'Koz is sleeper. This character is honestly one of the best characters in the game, but the amount of people who can pull it off is just non-existent. I should put him in not played, but he's so sleeper that I'm gonna keep him in sleeper. Victor, you see some people experiment him as like a safe early pick because he doesn't have too many bad matchups. But in all honesty, whenever I look at Victor, I honestly rather have his here. But there's some specific circumstances where I do like Victor. So the character's all right. He's all right. Vi, I think you could pick her, but it's just like there's no experimentation. I think it's a character that deserved experiment earlier in the year, but she never got it. So like this character is just not gonna be played. Vladimir, it kind of comes back now and then, because it's just a character where you say, okay, we're gonna put you on weak side top lane, just play safe and scale. And so I really should just make a, you know what, I'm gonna make a new category. I'm gonna make a new category called like weak side top lane characters that can safely scale. Um, add row below. Weak side top. Honestly, never mind. I don't need that row. The other thing that's nice about Vime is you can't flex in the mid lane, and he's a right character. We might see him at Worlds. Might. Volibear, we're definitely gonna see him. Really safe top laner. Okay jungler. Could potentially be picked as a support, but nobody ever tried it. Honestly, we're gonna see Volibear at Worlds. There's really not much debate about it. You can pick him early, and you're not gonna get punished too hard. I already put in Nunu. No, I have no idea why there's two pictures of Nunu. Wukong is a character of mixed emotions. You have some people call him really bad. Have some people call him mediocre. But I do feel this is a character where you have to know what you're picking before you know what's on the enemy team before you pick him. He's definitely not a B1 R1. Zaya's okay, but she's kind of just been dropped off the map. But she's okay. Um, Seraph, kind of like the same condition as Vel'Koz. Xin Zhao's just not that optimal because there's just better options than Xin Zhao right now. But he's not terrible, so we're gonna put him in not optimal. Yasuo, I'm actually gonna put in ban, and the reason I'm gonna put Yasuo in ban is because he can be fluxed into honestly 3 different roles, and honestly, when you have a well-picked Yasuo and you have multiple people on your team that can pick him, I feel like Yasuo is always a really dangerous pick on the side of G2, because caps and perks can pull him out anytime they want. And if your draft is not optimized against Yasuo, this character is just one of the most dangerous characters in the game. That being said, how much practice caps and perks still have on your Yasuo, that remains to be debated. Um, Yumi's alright. You could pick Yumi here and there, but it's just like nobody's playing her. But the character's alright. But no, we're not gonna see this character at Worlds. Zac kind of the same situation as Yumi. Ziggs also the same situation. The character's actually decent. We all seen Bjergsen's Zillion. You can also pick this character giga early. I honestly even think you could B1 it, and you're really not gonna see much punishment to it. So that being said, my personal opinion is like if the enemy team can pull out Zillion, like you should also just get rid of it. Syra I think is a great character. Just and we've all heard how many times Elise has hyped this character. I think she lives up to her hype, but she's just outright not played, and she's not. She's so not played to the point that it's just like she's just out here. Not play a character. All right, so this is my draft worlds tier list. Um, Thank you for watching this. This took forever to make. I'm losing my voice, but I'm going to describe each category one at a time in case y'all forgot. So, permaban. These are like characters that just like, if you know the enemy team can do it really, really good, just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Um, B1s, these are characters that can be picked very early with almost no punishment. You can argue that almost all B1s are purple by default. But yeah, the really powerful category. Then you have the green area. These are earlies. These are characters that can pick around like R1 to like R3, B2, B3s. These are like the characters you can pick early without too much punishment, because you gotta pick something early, and these are the characters that can be picked early without too much punishment, because either their playstyle is not that punishable, or because they can be flexed, or sometimes they're actually just really good response to the things you see in B1. Information and hard counter. These are characters where you don't pick these characters if you don't know what you're facing. Like, these are characters that are viable, and they can even be amazing, but you just want to know what you're doing. These aren't B1 characters. These aren't characters that can win every single matchup one-sidedly, and you auto-win. Like, these are characters where you just need to know what's going on with the draft before you pick them. That being said, what separates hard counter from information is that hard counter is a section of characters like these characters kind of just auto win the draft if the enemy team has like no actual prep for. Right, these are characters that can just really net you a lot of reward when they're picked at the most optimal times. Honestly, Poppy should be down here, up here, but the homegirl just not played. Draft focus. These are characters where they demand the draft to be picked around them. Evelyn she demands a lot of finesse picked around her, and we're definitely gonna see her at Worlds, I believe. But you'll notice when people pick Evelyn, it has to be well executed. Vayne is here because like, I guess Vayne is just actually up here. Like she just hard smashes on teams that are too tanky that lack things that can kill her. Next up is Sleeper. These are just characters I think are great, and these are not purple champions. They can go anywhere on this list, but they're characters I think are great that I wish the pro scene picked, but they're just not picked at all. Like this is stuff. This is like my bias was. This is stuff I wish got picked. And then not played are characters I think are alright, but they're just not played at all. There's no experimentation with these characters. And then not optimal. You can make an argument that a lot of these characters in not optimal can go into information. Like you can definitely make that argument, and if you wanted to make that argument, I won't even debate too much with you, because like you can make the argument. The arguments are fair. But the reason I put them in not optimal is because most of the time when you can look at these characters, you can think of better ideas. And that's why I put them down here. And then not viable and sad face, just these characters are trash. Don't pick them. Yeah, so those are my thoughts going to Worlds. So, rewinding a bit, this is my drafting tier list. This is just like explain when you pick characters or what you do with them. My predictions for today at Worlds is I predict Mad Lions, I predict PSG, I predict Legacy, I predict LGD, and then I'm just going to support my country and say Team Liquid. Go Team Liquid. That being said, this is what I have the least information on because I saw almost no Mad Lion games going in. Predicting the groups, I think Liquid and Mad will come out on top, and everybody else is just going to be a free-for-all. And then LGD first, and Unicorns will up second. Everybody else, I'll see this actually pretty easy. I'll say Talon comes in third, B3 comes in fourth, and Rainbow comes in last. But Talon could potentially lose to B3, but I kind of doubt it. Another thing is I'm also curious to see how much work Liquid has actually put in before Worlds. I actually have, you know what, anything I said bad about Liquid, I have high hopes for Liquid because they really gave TSM a run for their money. But cue in the NA low tier trash memes. Um, all in all, my name is Phantom. This is my first bit of Worlds content. I'm going to make more coming in as Worlds progresses. I wish y'all a great day. Have a good one.